First, in this video, I'm going to look at the future of cars according to the decisions that have been made in different countries, and in the second half of the video, I'm going to describe the history of electric cars. We're on the edge of changing car fuel technology these days. Now you can choose between cars with gasoline or diesel fuel, pure electric, and hybrid or hydrogen. If we have the right to choose, each of us will want to choose one of the available categories for the driving energy of our cars. A group of us are interested in the sound and roar of gasoline cars, especially if it's 8 cylinders. A group of great acceleration and silent electric cars, and a group of combinations of both of these in hybrid cars. Naturally, there are logical reasons behind our choice, none of which are wrong. But the reality is that after more than a century, internal combustion engines are slowly about to give way to new technology.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
There are many reasons, from reducing dependence on fossil fuels and oil to simplifying production engineering, reducing environmental pollution, making cars smarter, and optimizing battery charging with new technologies. There are all reasons that are both true and controversial for now. Please hit the subscribe button if you don't, so you can still use my videos, and if you like the video, press the like button. The decision that many countries have made is to gradually abandon gasoline and diesel cars. That's why they're developing an electric charging network for public transportation and other necessary infrastructure. Of course, not good news for lovers of the smell of gasoline and oil or the world of tuning. Most car lovers have a guard against electric vehicles and don't accept electric cars at all. They are right, because they can't handle electric cars by replacing the cylinder head, boosting the rods, timing the ignition, optimizing the turbocharger or supercharger, and a lot of other changes that were both skill and love. For many car lovers, a car with an engine has a soul and a personality. Of course, when the gasoline cars slowly replaced the horses, they were all the same. Change and metamorphosis always occur. In our generation, we've seen both the gramophone discs and the AI, but a lot of people are more comfortable accepting electric cars right now because they understand its specific benefits and enjoy its software technology. The high speed of an electric motor, the sync of a car with a phone app, a lower consumption and maintenance costs, and the tax benefits are attractive to them. Anyway, according to the decisions of the last few years, good or bad, some countries have imposed a ban on internal combustion engines, some of which we'll review together. I'll leave the link to my research source in the video description section if you'd like to read the original. Norway, as the leading country in the field, that said that by 2025, all cars should be pollution-free. That is only electric or with hydrogen fuel. The interesting thing is that Norway itself is the largest fossil fuel producer in Western Europe, but it's still the flagship of electric car adoption. About 80% of cars sold in 2022 were electric in Norway. Singapore, Israel, and Britain will stop selling cars with internal combustion engines by 2030. Britain has said that this is part of the policy of the Green Revolution. China is currently the world's largest battery manufacturer for electric cars and has hundreds of companies that make electric cars and public transportation. It's also the most polluted country by polluting cars. China's decision is to make electric or hybrid or fuel cell cars like hydrogen at least 25% of total sales by 2025 and make up the bulk of sales by 2035. Locally, in some cities, motorcycles and gasoline scooters are now banned, and people have to buy electric models if they want motorcycles. In the United States, according to Mr. Biden's plan, 2030 should be half the cars sold without pollution. Of course, it's less rigid, and it's also considered hybrid plug-in machines to be non-polluting. Even though America is Tesla's home, its sales accounted for just 5.8% of the market in 2022. The states of California and New York announced a ban on the sale of fossil fuel vehicles except plug-in hybrid vehicles from 2035. Canada has set the same goal. That means that from 2035, only electric cars or plug-in hybrids or hydrogen will be sold. In Europe, 2035 is considered. The European Union has decided to stop selling fossil fuel vehicles since 2035. The difference is that hybrids are also prohibited from selling. It's just electric and hydrogen. In Europe, the 2022 figures show sales of more than 12% of the electric car. But Sweden, the Netherlands, and Ireland have set the red line for 2030 and want to be more pioneering. In Japan, while the 2022 electric car sales figure was only 1.7%, it was decided to stop selling fossil fuel cars with the exception of hybrids by 2030. And India, as a major country, aims to sell electric cars at 30% of total sales in 2030. These policies justify the efforts of large companies to provide electric cars and the try and error of different models. Bad news for engine enthusiasts and is an important task for electrical energy producers. So let's go to the history of electric cars in the world. Electric cars have had many ups and downs. These days, the name of the electric car is Tesla, the first brand we remember, but you might be surprised to say that the electric car was invented earlier than the gasoline car. The first time Carl Benz introduced his tricycle was in 1886, but a little further back. After the invention of the electric motor by Benjamin Franklin in 1748, the idea was suggested that if you could move the carriage with the help of an electric motor, it would be great, and we wouldn't need horses. Many different ideas were implemented and failed until finally in 1828, a Hungarian physicist named Ányos Jedlik built a compact, modern-style electric motor. With that engine between 1832 and 1839, a Scottish inventor, Robert Anderson, built the first electric carriage. Of course, the prototypes didn't have a rechargeable battery, and they had very little range of motion. After the invention of lead and acid batteries, the first human-carrying electric vehicle with a rechargeable battery was tested in 1881 by Gustave Trouve on the streets of Paris. It was originally a tricycle, of course, and for some unknown reason it failed to file its invention. An English inventor named Thomas Parker built the first four-wheel drive car in 1884. In Germany, 4 years later, in 1888, an engineer named Flocken built a four-wheel drive car. The countries of France, the UK, and Germany have contributed a lot to the development of electric cars. Other than cars, trains and electric boats were built in those years, especially in the wagons transporting rock from the depths of the mine, where the electric motor played a good role because of the decrease in oxygen. The first electric car in America was introduced in 1890. An electric car with a speed of 23 kilometers per hour and the ability to carry 6 passengers. It really was the golden age of electric cars between 1890 to 1910. People were interested in buying electric cars. There were a lot of electric taxis in London and New York. Compared to gasoline or steam cars, they didn't smell, vibrate, or make loud noises in those years, and there was no handling to turn on or no need to change gears. In America, in the early 1900s, 40% of cars were steam engines, 38% were electric motors, and 22% were gasoline. In America, electric cars became so popular that in the early 1910s, more than 300 manufacturers were engaged in presenting them on the market. The radius of electric cars reached more than 170 kilometers, but to overcome this limitation due to the lack of power grid and charging stations, in 1896, battery replacement stations were set up and started work for the consumer. But slowly, with global oil exploration and improving fuel conditions in terms of price and access and road asphalting, the slow speed of electric cars, which was eventually 64 kilometers or 40 miles per hour, caused electric cars to be devoted to urban use and gasoline cars opened their place in the market. The invention of the electric starter made people unnecessary to handle. Also, the muffler in the exhaust reduced the noise of the gasoline cars, and the higher speed of gasoline navigation showed that the days had come back in favor of the gasoline cars. Mass production by Henry Ford reduced the price to buy a gasoline car for half the price of an electric car. It got to the point where most electric car manufacturers faded.
You serious?
After World War II, in 1960, in Europe, the battery was redeveloped for the electric car and they were able to build a car that had a speed of 96 kilometers per hour. But again, it cost twice as much as a similar gasoline model. The project was discontinued. Between the 60s and 90s, a lot of batteries and electric cars were built with new technology and virtually none of them were successful. In the 90s, with the pressure of the California Clean Air Agency, the issue of pollution came up, and the look back at the world of electric cars with zero pollution. Chrysler, Ford, Honda, Nissan, Toyota have offered cars with lithium-ion batteries. But oil lobbyists complained about the plan. and manufacturers backed out, and the electric car world was marginalized again. What was still indefensible was the slow speed and limited range of motion of electric cars, and it had only been used on the golf course, or moving tourists, or some limited industrial use, all these years. In Japan in the late 2000s, an electric Mitsubishi sample was introduced. Also in 2008, in California, Tesla unveiled its own roadster and announced that it had been working on the development of an electric car since 2004. The reception of these models showed that the market has good potential for electric cars provided it is efficient. It was after this that the Nissan Leaf was presented and the excitement in the production of the electric car was restarted. In recent years, the growing sales chart of electrical products has shown a good market reception, which is due to their reasonable speed and acceptable range of motion alongside the reasonable purchase price and maintenance costs. Think a comparison. Tesla Model 3 in the lowest trim available for purchase at $34,000. It has a range of 430 kilometers per charge and an average monthly maintenance fee for the first 5 years is $623. It has a lot of advanced software systems, and the 0 to 100 acceleration is below 6 seconds. With the price drop, it's between $23,000 to $27,000 after 5 years. Well, a Toyota Corolla can buy $32,000, which has a range of more than 800 kilometers and an average monthly maintenance fee of $521 per month for the first 5 years. The acceleration from 0 to 100 kilometers is 8.5 seconds, and the price drops below $19,000 after 5 years.